Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 29 of the Beyond the Ring with Big T Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Big T. It is our Wednesday night, actually. Sorry about that, Wednesday night, November 9th, 2016. And I got a special guest here with us tonight. We got the Beer City Bruiser from Ring of Honor Wrestling is here with us tonight. How you doing, Bruiser?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing great. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's great to be on.
So, what I want to ask you to start this off. Now, when you've got your first taste of the wrestling business, as I'm assuming a young child, or maybe in your teenage years, whatever it have you, what was your first taste of the business when you first seen it on TV, and when did you decide, like, wow, this is it, this is what I gotta do with the rest of my life?
My first taste of it actually came when I was 7 years old. My uncle took me to a fair. At the fair, the main attraction for everything was the AWA wrestling. And we went to go see the AWA wrestling, and the main event was Bruiser Brody. And I remember just being a 7-year-old kid, and they brawled right past me. And, I looked up, and there's this massive old man, Bruiser Brody. I'm a 7-year-old kid, and here's Brody, and he's just full of blood and the sweat. And I remember them, to me, it seemed like they were just hitting each other as hard as they could. And I looked at my uncle, I'm like, this is amazing. And I kind of got hooked on it and started, looking it out. And that's when I realized in my area where I grew up, we could watch WWF, we could watch AWA, and then on Saturday they would put on, it rotated between the Von Erichs, Bill Watts stuff, and then out the Mid-Atlantic stuff. So I would just go out and try and find as much Brody stuff as I could, and in my quest to find as much Brody stuff as I could, I just completely fell in love with wrestling.
I'll tell you, that sounds like an incredible match, too, that you got to witness with Bruiser Brody and Stan Hansen. Those two big guys. That had to be like every version of a street fight, that you could think of, because those were some hard-nosed brawlers back in the day.
Yeah, and they, like I said, I was 7 years old, and you know how the world's so much bigger when you're such a little kid. I remember my uncle just giggling, and my uncle to this day is still a wrestling fan, and he's probably my biggest fan next to my mom. And he still comes whenever I'm in his town. He still comes and he pays for a ticket and comes and watches me wrestle. And I always try to leave him a comp ticket because I owe everything, my love of the business to him. He still says, nope, I'd rather pay for the ticket because it's how you make a living. To this day, loves wrestling and supports me.
That's incredible. You can't have it any better than that. Now, forward, you have this incredible experience as a child. You think it's the most amazing thing in the world, and you see these larger-than-life characters just with one another. And then moving forward in your life, how did it all come about? Like, what was your first, to go to training, and how was your training, and even who trained you, and what was that all like? If you could share that with everybody here.
What happened was, like I said, I watched, I became obsessed with it, and I actually got, my mom and dad wouldn't allow me to watch wrestling for a while, so I had to sneak it in, watching it in my bedroom and stuff while they were sleeping, or like I used to go to the local thrift shop or local store up the road and to get my comic books, and I'd buy a wrestling magazine and hide it inside my comic books. And then me and my friends, we were all hooked on it, and so we'd wrestle around and stuff. By the time, you fast forward a few years, we used to go to my buddy's house, and I used to impress my friends because I'd jump through things like signs, and they'd hit me with a kendo stick, and and like, this is great, and a guy goes, well, hey, if you're interested in that, my neighbor in the backyard, he just was on the Channel 12 local news, kids, and he trains wrestlers. So I was like, yeah, well, let me check this out. So I went and talked to this guy. He himself.
Oh, what happened there? The call just dropped out. Uh-oh. Let's see if we can get him back. Hold on 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. Let's get Beer City Bruiser back on the line here. Hold on 1 second. Hey, Bruiser, your call dropped out and just right in the middle of speaking there.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. As soon as it dropped out, I'm like, oh, hold on. We got to get Bruiser back here. So no problem, no worries at all. If you just want to go through that again, feel free, and we'll continue.
Yeah. Okay. Like I was saying, I goof off with my friends and stuff, and a guy noticed me and my friends all goofing off and says, well, hey, I have a neighbor who's a wrestler, and he's got a ring set up in his backyard. And they're filming something for the local news. So,
oh, what happened? I don't know if Bruiser is in a remote zone where it keeps dropping out that it's just so weird. I hope everything's okay with the phone connections. Bear with us, people. Let's see. Little difficulties with the phones. It happens. Yeah, it dropped out, Bruiser. It dropped right out. Are you in a remote area or anything, or?
no, I'm where I usually do my stuff. Here, let me move over to the other part.
Okay. Yeah, because
how's that?
it was the same exact thing. You were going in mid-sentence, and it just dropped right out.
Yeah.
All right, so no worries. We'll try this again.
You got me now?
Yeah, I got you right now. Hopefully the connection will stick now.
Let me see.
I know you were talking about you and your friends, how you guys used to goof off and wrestle with one another, and your what was it? One of your neighbors said that one of his neighbors was a wrestler.
So he introduced me to him, and he didn't train anybody. But he introduced me to a guy who did. His name was Trevor Adonis. And Trevor actually lived like 5 minutes, where he owned a gym he could work out in, and it was only 5 minutes from my house. So I ended up going in there to meet Trevor. He looked me over and he says, well, show up at this bar called Hog Alley in a little town called Delafield. We have a show on this day. Come earlier, and for $150, I'll run you through what I call a fantasy camp. And I was like, okay, and he says, what the fantasy camp is we just show you a little bit of stuff, prove to you it wrestling hurts, and then we'll take it from there. So I said, all right, we can do that. I show up, and my fantasy camp was only supposed to be 2 hours, and I ended up over for 4.5 hours that day.
Wow.
And everything he showed me, I just picked up. And I was like a kid in a candy store. I was on cloud 9. This has always been my dream. Trevor says, all right, well, if you deserve to be in this, I'd love to train you. And that's how I started my training, was with him. When I've been in the business for about 5 years, I've done a couple of the Harley race fantasy camps that he runs. And Harley actually loved what I did and invited me down to work out at his school. So after about 5 years in the business, I moved to Eldon, Missouri, and I spent another 4 years down there training with Harley Race.
Did when you were down there training with Harley Race, did you get to wrestle in any WLW shows for Mr. Race's promotion?
Yeah, in fact, I was WLW Tag Team Champion twice. Every show he ran for the 4 years that I lived down there, and the 2 years before that, I commuted from Wisconsin down to Missouri to wrestle for Harley. The way I describe it was I got my break-in training with Trevor, who taught me the fundamentals, and then I got my college education with Harley. And I really started getting the wrestling business, training with Harley. And the best thing about training with Harley was I'd go into his office at 10 a.m. and sit and just sit me and Harley. And I'd pick his brain. I'd ask him questions. And it was lunchtime. We'd go up to lunch. I'd get back. Then we'd have training. I'd train. Then I'd go to the gym to work out. And I'd do that every single day. Spending, 12 hours with Harley Race just picking his brain. And he's got the best brain in wrestling. They don't call me king for nothing.
Oh, exactly. And I'm going to ask this question just because I'm a little bit curious. All right, so let me get back on here. I think working. It looks like it's working. Levels are moving again. All right, so the question that I was going to ask you, Bruiser, is well, I'm trying to think off the top of my head when this was. It was about, I believe, about a month ago now, when I had Leland Race, the son of Harley Race. He was a guest on my show, and
Okay.
I was talking to him about WLW, and I'm just curious now, since you were there, you have an opportunity to wrestle Leland or tag team with Leland?
Yeah, I've wrestled Leland a couple times. In fact, when we did some WWE stuff, him and I actually tagged with each other against Gemini. This is years ago. In North Carolina, where he's from. I think he's from. Well, it was North Carolina. We tagged there, and then at WLW, I never tagged with him there. We always wrestled each other. And then there's a couple times where I have a company up in Wisconsin. We had him come up to Wisconsin and wrestled him a couple times.
Sounds like you guys had some great matches.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun to wrestle. Son of a legend, and the school, like I said, the Harley Race School is one of the best wrestling academies out there. And even if whether you're looking to break into business or you're already in the business and a wrestler, and you want to perfect it and tone it up, and like I said, it's like going to college, going to the academy, And I believe now Leland's the head trainer there. When I was there, he wasn't yet. He was still learning the ropes and stuff with the rest of us. But I do believe now he's the current head trainer there.
Yes, I believe you're right, because I think we talked about this in the interview about a month ago. I know he was working, with Harley, and I think they had a big show coming up where he was going to wrestle for a rematch for the World Heavyweight Championship, because I guess he lost the WLW title not too long ago. So, yeah, I know they had a lot of things going on over there.
Yeah, it was a great place to hold my skills, and I met a lot of great guys there. Trevor Murdoch was still under contract with WWE when I was there, so he'd come into the school. Ace Steel, the guy who trained CM Punk and Colt Cabana, he was there. Ted DiBiase Jr. was training there. Joe Hennig, who's now Curtis Axel, he was training there. There's a referee that refs for WWE. He was a wrestler at the time. Val Wynn was his name. Brian. He's not a referee for WWE, but he was there. There's a guy named Brian Breaker from Oklahoma who was under a contract with NXT for a little bit, but he got released, but now he's getting ready to go back to Japan. He was there. You know, I mean, there was a whole crew of us that were there. You know, then you had Leland on top of that. And I do believe Leland's getting ready to go to Japan also. And it's just, with all of us, we're just bound, you know, you surround yourself with greatness, you're bound to get great.
Exactly. And you know what? Harley is the one that, you know, that's running the machine. So you got greatness at the top of it, and you got a bunch of great guys surrounding it, and just all around. And that's the recipe for success right there.
Yeah, exactly.
And going from WLW, what was your next step in the business once you went through WLW? What was next in line for you?
So I got to the point in WLW where I was teaching more than I was learning. I have children and stuff that were still living in Wisconsin, and I missed them. So I decided to make the move back to Wisconsin. And there's a local promotion up here, Bruiser Wrestling, and the owner, Frankie DeFalco, offered to give me the booker's position. He says, you know, you got a great mind, I'd like you to use it. And I agreed to it. After that, started booking shows, just learning another aspect of the wrestling business under Frankie's guidance. But when I moved back to Milwaukee, it's kind of like when my career took off, because I started getting other promoters interested in me. The Beer City Bruiser character was born, and I felt comfortable in the ring, and I felt comfortable just because everything I'd gone through with learning on my Harleys, and actually started help train students and whatnot. And over time, I found out that there was a Ring of Honor tryout camp. And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to give this a try. You know, I'd done stuff with WWE, done stuff with TNA as extra work, so I figured, why not try it with Ring of Honor, see where it takes me. So in October of 2013, I decided to do the Ring of Honor tryout camp. The way that came about was my father-in-law had always told me, you know, you need to make the next step, you need to take the next step, you need to take the risk. And when he passed away, he actually left some money aside for me to attend the Ring of Honor tryout camp. So I kind of did it in his honor, thinking, you know what, let's give it a try. You're not getting any younger, let's see what happens. And I attended the camp. I hit a home run, and the next thing you know, I was invited to go do the Top Prospect tournament of 2014, it would be, because it was in January. And I did the tournament, and I've been getting booked with Ring of Honor ever since then. You know, signed my contract, and here I am.
That is awesome. Now, before we talk about the Ring of Honor that you're having, because I know that, you know, that's the present day right now, I want to take a little bit of a step back, because I heard you mention WWE and TNA, and I'd like to talk about this on the air. How did it feel? Well, which one did you work for first, by the way? Was it WWE or TNA?
The first one I worked for was WWE. Anderson Kennedy.
Yes.
It was before he was under contract, and he was doing extra work with them, and they needed a large guy for a segment. So he put a good word in for me with Tommy Dreamer, who was booking the extra talent at the time. And I show up, and I was the first guy to be pulled out of a crowd on Simon Dean's, his TV debut. First time there was with WWE. And I was blown away. Because, I mean, you know, you watch this religiously on TV, and then when I got there, and everybody was there, it was such a surreal moment. and I did my spot, and I was on Raw, and I did the thing with Simon Dean, and it was just cool because, I'd been working so hard, and now here I was getting a chance. When I moved down by Harley's, I was used even more regularly, and I started getting matches and stuff like that. And I was getting good feedback from legends like Arn Anderson and Ricky Steamboat, Dean Malenko, and it was a lot of fun. That's how also we got the TNA thing, was through Harley. And I actually did TNA in Springfield, Missouri, and I actually got to work a tag match. And after I got done with the tag match, Kurt Angle walked up and said, "Man, that was one of the best tag matches I've seen." And that was just a really cool experience. And then we were on the Lockdown pay-per-views at Dark. So it was a lot of
fun. That is incredible. Lockdown pay-per-view, getting to do a match with TNA, Kurt Angle coming up to you. That had to be like the highlight of the whole TNA experience right there. This whole Simon Dean thing, I believe I actually remember that segment very clearly. Didn't he have you try a bunch of products with the Simon system or whatever it was? He had everything lined up in the ring.
I was a plant in the crowd, and he was making fun of the crowd, and I'm the guy that jumps the railing to go beat him up. And then he stops from beating me up and offers me the Simon system. I end up flipping over the table and shoving him down, and then he takes me down, beats me up, and put me in a submission hold. And that was the end of it.
Yep, I remember that show. That was that was something. And you got to wrestle in, WWE, TNA. Now you're wrestling for ROH. Before we get into the ROH experience, I want to ask, because I asked this to pretty much everybody that I've interviewed that has had involvement with WWE. Now, of course, you love what you're doing, no matter where you do it. It could be in a backyard or, anywhere. But being in that WWE ring for the first time, what did that feel like? Because I've heard, a lot of different things, from different people, but it pretty much all comes back to the same thing, that they're just so mind blown, and it's like an out of body experience being in that WWE ring.
It is. It's definitely an out of body experience. It was surreal to me, standing in the ring. I got a chance where I got to stand in there alone, and like there's people around, but I mean I was walking on cloud nine. It was amazing. And then once I found out what I was doing, I was kind of rushed through. You know what you got to do, and you have stuff that you have to remember, and you have to meet with the producers and the agents, and I have to meet Vince. But it made me driven, because I remember standing in that ring and looking around going, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. My goal for my career has always been to wrestle full time, to not have to have a 9-to-5 job, just to wrestle. That experience that just fueled that even more. To become more successful.
And you know what? When it's your dream, that's exactly what it's going to do, because there's nothing that'll stop you from doing your dream and your ultimate passion in life. And that's how it should be. Now, Vince McMahon, I've heard, a few different things, and I don't know if you care to elaborate on it. Some people have. I've heard a few different things. I've heard anything from, experience to that Vince McMahon, can be intimidating. What was it like meeting the creator of the WWE Empire? Did it, was it like something that...
It was intimidating to me, but not because Vince was intimidating. It was intimidating to me because he's Vince McMahon. Acted the way he talked, man. It was just the image that I had. Here's the guy who literally has changed the wrestling business and is the man. And when I met him, he was awesome. He's a good guy. The thing that I liked about Vince is that I've only, introduced myself to him. I introduced myself to him every time I've ever done WWE extra work. But he's always remembered me. which I always took as, how many people see me in a day, and he remembers, a toothless guy from Milwaukee, and I thought that was really cool. And I wasn't intimidated him himself the way he acted. I was intimidated by the character that I had in my head. Like, oh my God, this is Vince McMahon. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. Like, your mind kind of playing tricks on you. Like, even though he's cool with you, you still see that Vince McMahon character that you see on TV, and it makes you intimidated all in one.
Exactly. Yep. And I have not had a bad experience with him at all.
That's awesome.
That first meeting, just walking up, it was just, I remember I walked up to him with Simon Dean, and because we had to get something corrected what we were doing that night, and he looks at me and he goes, "You nervous?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "Good, so am I." So I didn't feel so
bad. Hey, at least he was able to share a little humorous side with you. That's good, because that's something with the character Mr. McMahon on TV, that you don't see very often. So it's really cool to hear that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it sounds like WWE is on top of it, with the management as far as getting their guys in there, making sure that the boss will introduce himself. Now, as far as TNA, did you see any differences in TNA compared to WWE or even TNA to ROH? Like,
a lot of difference. WWE is so structured and organized. Where when I did the TNA stuff, there was no structure. There was no organization. When I did WWE, anytime I've done it, okay, this person at this time, and you need to do this. If you get a match, this is the guy you have to report to. This is what you need to do here and here. When it was TNA, it was nobody talks to you, and we were with Harley. Like, no one would come and talk to Harley, which blew my mind. You know what I mean? And then Ring of Honor, it's so amazing the way they run everything. Like, the crews, the locker room's amazing. I love the locker room. The production team's awesome. The booking team and everything's really cool. To keep you in the loop. It's a very well-oiled machine. So, if I describe all of all, like, the difference between all of them is I think WWE and Ring of Honor were pretty organized, where the time I did TNA was very disorganized. You didn't know who to talk to. Where with Ring of Honor or WWE, you know exactly where you have to go and what you have to do and what time you have to be there. You get a feeling of, okay, if I have a question, I can go to this person and ask them the question. Hey, we didn't know what was going on. We knew we had a match, but that was it.
Well, see, the whole thing is that sounds a lot like, to me, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds a lot like WCW, like in the year 2000 when everything was in disarray. That's what I'm kind of picking up from the TNA vibe. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. And I'd done WWE first when I did TNA. So I was kind of comparing the two, like, okay, these are the two biggest companies, but I clearly saw why WWE was bigger. And then when I did my Ring of Honor thing, I'm like, okay, well, let's see how this is. And it was so, it lived up to its name. Like I said, Ring of Honor has the best wrestling on the planet, bar none. And the way they run everything, it shows. It's very, very, it's a company that likes to evolve with time. Care about their talent, so they make sure that you are in the loop of everything that's going on. They don't leave you high and dry. And I really like that. I like to know, okay, call time's 1 p.m., so 1 p.m. I got to get there, and I got to check in, and then I don't have to do anything till 2:30 when the meeting is, or whatever. You know what I mean? At least there's structure to it. And that's how it was with WWE. There was structure to it. Did the structure change? Yeah, but it's a live TV show with WWE and with Ring of Honor TV taping, so someone get hurt or something happens, that happens. But at least you know what's going on.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, Ring of Honor, the fact that you said the best wrestling on the planet, because I have said that myself. I know they say it on TV, on the TV shows, but,
right.
Hearing you say it, and I have reviewed because, beyond the podcast, I also talk about current events in wrestling and have done reviews and rated shows. And I've told my viewers time and time again is some of the best wrestling on the planet that you'll ever see. And every single show of Ring of Honor that I've reviewed on my show has gotten a 10 out of 10 because they are solid. What they do, they could cram. All right, now think of this. I'm not trying to take jabs at WWE or nothing, so don't think that. But I gotta say a thing where Ring of Honor, I think, even has one up on WWE. On Raw this past Monday, out of a 3-hour show, I took the times down of the matches and I wrote them down. And the time of the matches, we got like just under 35 minutes of wrestling action throughout a whole 3-hour show. The rest were promo packages, advertisements. Now with Ring of Honor, one thing I noticed, you guys could be on the air for 1 hour or show. You'll have maybe about 10 minutes of commercials, maybe 5 or 10 minutes of promos, and you'll have like 35 to 40 minutes of wrestling in a 1 hour show, which is incredible. You guys keep me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, because it says wrestling on the marquee, and that's what people come to see. And when people say best wrestling on the planet, yeah, that's their slogan. But I always tell people, or come to a live show, and Ring of Honor will prove with the wrestling why they have that slogan as their slogan. And I said that before I was under contract with them, because it's just, it's like you said, it's an hour-long program, but you get a good 40 minutes of wrestling. That's what we're all fans of, is wrestling. We have the talking and they have the other stuff too, but the main core of it all is wrestling.
And that's what it's supposed to be, wrestling show, whether you have entertainment in your company name or, whatever it may be. If you're in the company of entertainment, sports entertainment, wrestling, the point is, if you still have a wrestling show, no matter what's in your name, your program should be geared around wrestling, because that's when the audience tunes in for. And that's what Ring of Honor always gave me. And that's why Ring of Honor always got a 10 out of 10. And another thing Ring of Honor gives me is always makes sense. I never find myself discombobulated or having to question, like, why are they doing this? Like, everything they do makes total sense, and it's simple. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. I miss those simple, old school storylines that make sense, and Ring of Honor has that. Little bumps in the road.
Oh, you're right. I got about like 5 more minutes and I gotta get going.
All right, no problem. All right, so let's continue where we were at. I was just talking about Ring of Honor and what you guys do, and then you were in the middle of saying something, and my microphone popped out on me. So feel free to go ahead and continue.
Well, you said that the storylines aren't hard to follow, and what I like as a wrestler, as a performer on that show, is I love when it's a simple storyline, because we can focus on what's important, and that's the wrestling. We still have our character stuff that we have to get across, but it's not a complicated scenario where we have to like do 4 different run-ins and promos and all this stuff. It's literally just to the point, have a great match. This has to happen for the storyline. Like, okay, cool, easy. It's not bad. I mean, and I think because it's simple, that's why people love it, and that's why I think it makes it so good to watch. It's nice and easy to follow. It doesn't make the person watching it feel dull. you know?
Exactly. It does not insult the fans' intelligence, and that's one of the most important things for a wrestling company.
Correct.
I got a couple questions left for you here. One, I'm gonna say, who was your all-time, favorite wrestler that you ever met in person? Who did you have some great experiences with, throughout your years in the business?
That would have to be Steve Carino. Steve Carino, I met 14 years ago. And in those last 14 years, he has become like a mentor to me. He's part of the reason that I have my job with Ring of Honor. He's part of the reason that my character's evolved so much and become the character it is today. I've had outstanding matches with him. But he's also, someone that I can call up in the middle of the night if I'm having issues of like trying to think of something for a promo. And I know he's going to give me great advice. So he is not only a friend of mine, but a mentor. And I love the guy to death. I think everything he does is great, and I totally owe him almost everything in my career, So the wrestler that I've met in the business that I'm, like you said, it's Steve Carino, and the other one would be Harley Race. Because Harley he's the man. He is the king. And spending that time with Harley, I got to realize, well, he's the king in the ring, but he's also a king outside of the ring. He is such a good man. And it's great what he's doing with WLW, and it's amazing what he's done with the business.
Absolutely incredible stories, and you only got a couple minutes left here, so I'm going to ask you a pretty important question that I'm sure everybody wants to know. Well, it's kind of a two-parter. What was your favorite match that you ever had, program or feud, and who was it against? And if it did not happen in ROH, what was your favorite memories and matches and feuds in ROH as well? Because Ring of Honor, I'm sure you've had some good ones.
Actually, my favorite stuff right now is my Ring of Honor stuff. I'm tagging with Silas Young currently where Milwaukee's worth, and I'm tagging with him. My favorite thing to be a part of with Ring of Honor was the feud between Dalton Castle and Silas Young. I was so happy to be a part of that. I thought it was very well done, very put together. You had two different characters, and they incorporated me and the boys in it, and we had some great matches. My other, some of the matches that are some of my favorites are our matches with War Machine. Been killing it with War Machine. And then the Briscoe brothers. St. Louis with the Briscoe brothers, which is probably one of my favorite matches of all time. We did a match here in Milwaukee for Tag Wars that Silas and I won. It was with the Briscoe brothers and All That Express. And it will be something that I will remember for the rest of my life. It was my hometown crowd. The match went amazingly. And the reaction we got from the crowd, to this day, still gives me goosebumps when I think of it. And that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life.
I'll tell you, those matches, they sound world-class. Some of the best matches that you could see in Ring of Honor and in the tag team division. And you got anything that you would like to promote coming up? Feel free. The floor is yours.
Yeah, a couple things. There's the Final Battle pay-per-view coming in December 2nd for Ring of Honor. If you want to get a hold of me, the Beer City Bruiser on Facebook, my fan page. On Twitter, I'm at BCB Winchester. I have a Pro Wrestling Tees store. It's Pro Wrestling Tees / Beer City Bruiser. I have 4 t-shirts up there. 3 t-shirts actually up there right now. Support your local wrestling. I mean, WWE is fun and all that, but go out and see, the local wrestling scene. This weekend, I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota for Heavy on Wrestling. The main event, Cody Rhodes versus Colt Cabana, which I don't think will happen anywhere else. I start my debut in Arizona coming up at the end of November. And just, like I said, support your local independent wrestling. If you're in the Milwaukee area and you want to train to be a wrestler, talk to Frankie DeFalco. He runs the Thumpers Den Wrestling Academy, and I'm the head trainer there. I kind of take what I've learned in my 16 years of the business and pass it on to the future generation. We got a couple students that just graduated that are starting to start their careers. And as a trainer, I love watching that. You know what I mean? So it makes me like a proud papa. So I think that's going to be like the next step of my career once I start winding down is training. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, you sound like you're in the best place, that you can be in your career. You're doing great things in Ring of Honor, and it sounds like you got your future all set up, with what you want to do. And I really appreciate you coming on here to share these stories, that you shared with us about WWE, Ring of Honor, and TNA, and your years growing up. I really appreciate it. And again, sorry about those audio issues, and taking a few minutes to get everything set up, but we worked through it and everything went fine. And just want to say thank you, for coming on the show. And also, I appreciate you being patient while I work through those difficulties.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Hey, you're welcome. And if you ever would like to come back on, and if you ever got some new stuff that you want to promote, or if you just want to message me, maybe some stuff that you want to promote, feel free to let me know. I'll be more than glad to report it on my podcast. I'll be more than glad to have you back on the podcast.
Sounds good. I look forward to that.
All right. Thank you very much, Beer City Bruiser. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Beer City Bruiser, Matt Winchester. Absolutely incredible interview. I have fun doing these. I just loved hearing the stories about Ring of Honor. I mean, for those of you that have been following my channel, I'm sure that you guys know how much I love Ring of Honor. And, I've always given it such positive ratings. And to be able to hear about it like we did from Matt Winchester right here tonight is absolutely incredible. And just the stories that he shared. I hope all of you enjoyed it as much as I did. I mean, I found these stories to be absolutely incredible, and that's what this podcast is all about right here. That's what this podcast is all about right here. Can't get any better than this. And this is why I say this is your number one podcast for all of your professional wrestling needs right here on YouTube and iTunes and Podomatic today. T is your one-stop destination for all your professional wrestling needs. This is where you want to be. So I'm going to go over a few things and where you could find me. So if there's new listeners here, just want to tell you, if you want to check out my YouTube channel, if you're listening on iTunes and Podomatic and you want to check out my YouTube channel, YouTube search Beyond the Ring with Big T. All my YouTube videos are there. Don't forget, like the videos, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And if YouTube and haven't checked out the audio podcast for the YouTube viewers, make sure you head on over to iTunes and Podomatic and type in Beyond the Ring with Big T Wrestling Podcast. Subscribe to the podcast, leave a 5-star rating, and I promise you will not be disappointed. You'll get great interviews like this, like we had with the Beer City Bruiser, Matt Winchester, right here tonight. It was a great show, and I just want to thank you for being on here once again. Don't forget to go and check him out at All right, guys. As I was saying, little bit of audio issue, but Beer City Bruiser Wrestling at Ring of Honor. Make sure you check it out at the Final Battle pay-per-view, and go on ROH.com. Like Matt said earlier, go follow him on Twitter. Check him out on Facebook. His Beer City Bruiser Facebook page. There's all kinds of stuff where you can find the Beer City Bruiser, Matt Winchester. So, again, guys, this has been episode number 29. This has been a historic episode, number 29. And next week, as of right now, unless plans change, if plans change, I'll be the first one to let you guys know. But as of right now, next week, November 16th, Wednesday, November 16th at 9 p.m., we're going to have Mr. Lance Anoa'i on the show next week. If plans change, I will let you know. But right now, that's how that stands. Lance Anoa'i on the show next Wednesday night at 9 p.m. But, so just want to let you guys know that. Don't miss it. Make sure you be here. And, as far as when Sean and I are going to be on the air again to do a regular podcast, I don't know if we'll do anything this weekend or not. Next time I might be back might actually be the Lance and Hawaii interview on Wednesday night. And then I know it's Survivor Series week, so we got to find a way to work in Survivor Series predictions and all that good stuff. So it'll be an interesting week, but I hope you guys will kick back, relax, and enjoy this interview with Beer City Bruiser tonight. And you guys, again, I want to say thank you to Beer City Bruiser for coming on, but you guys know on the shows here every week. How do we end the podcast? We end it with Mr. EC3, I'm TNA World Heavyweight Champion, Ethan Carter III. He always takes us off on into the sunset. So we got to get him on here for this epic 29. So let's do that. I'm going to pull this up. We'll get EC3 on here to send us on into the weekend. And let me pull this up real quick for you guys, because we can't get off the air without EC3. No. Gotta make sure we get him on. All right, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, every single episode we've ever done, it ends with Mr. EC3, so that is not going to change. All right. Now that I got the video up. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, where I'm going to sign off. Again, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to like the video, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. And then on iTunes and Podomatic. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Leave a 5-star rating. Hope you enjoyed this interview with Beer City Bruiser Matt Winchester. And again, Beer City Bruiser Matt Winchester, thank you so very much for coming on here tonight. It was indeed an awesome experience. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And as far as you guys, Wednesday, November 9th, 2016, for episode number 29. We're going to close it out right here, right now with Mr. EC3. So you guys take care. You stay safe. And we will talk to you next week. And here is Mr. EC3. Boom. There he is up on the screen share for those of you watching on YouTube, and for those of you listening on iTunes and Podomatic. You're going to see him on your screen right here. So kick back, relax. Episode number 9, and it's coming to an end right now. We will see you next week for episode number 30. Number 30 with Lance on Hawaii. So it's going to be great. Gentlemen, you have a great weekend, and we will talk to you next week for episode number 30 with Lance and Hawaii. Thank you again, Beer City Bruiser Matt Winchester, for being on the show tonight. This has been episode number 29. I'm your host, Big T. We'll talk to you next week for episode number 30 with Lance and Hawaii. See you next week. Good night, everybody.
Hello, this is EC3 of TNA Wrestling, and you are so very fortunate because you are watching Beyond the Ring with Big T